No.
Cool. So we're live.
So we are
We
live
are
now.
live.
So hello everyone, whatever
Welcome.
you are in the world. Good night, good morning. We never know. So today we have a special guest. So we are live now.
Live.
So hello everyone, whatever
Welcome.
we have someone. Good morning. We have a back sound from someone.
There you
Is
go.
you?
It was me. Sorry, I had it open.
Okay, no worries. No worries. I just yes. Yeah, there is a delay on the YouTube. Cool. So we're gonna introduce quickly the guys here. So we have Made by Radio with us, straight from South Africa with us. We're gonna play the show reel and the guys can introduce themselves after so you can know who we're talking tonight. Let me just share here quickly. Give me 1 second. Cool. So you should be able to see the show reel now. I'm just gonna play and we're back in 40 seconds. Oh, really nice. Nice one, guys. Thanks so much. So please introduce yourself so everyone know who we're talking to tonight.
You're on mute, Byron.
I'm Byron. I'm creative director and founder. Ready?
Hey, I'm Vili. I'm also creative director, head of animation.
Hi, I'm Arne. I'm the creative director of illustration.
That's nice. So can you tell us, like, for who doesn't know, I think you guys quite well know nowadays, but can you just tell who is Made by Radio? What you guys do, how do you describe yourself?
Cool. So yeah, this is our 12th year that we've been going. It's been quite a journey. I think when we started, we were sort of just predominantly illustration based, a lot of iconography, a lot of editorial, that kind of stuff. And then when Vili joined in 2000 and, remind me again, Vili?
2014.
Vili came straight from uni, and he sort of started to take the icons and, the very much like plain editorial vector kind of stuff. We started to make it move. And from then on, it's sort of just been our goal to sort of keep pushing, keep doing different kind of characters, keep doing different kind of animation, new styles, new techniques. And it really just evolved kind of naturally like that into the folio that we have today,
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
It's quite nice to see, I wouldn't imagine you guys come from more like the illustration background and iconic icons. And it's 12 years now. And
Yeah.
so
Does it
guys...
feel like 12 years?
No, I think like the last 3 years have felt like 12 years.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, no, I mean, like it's kind of a journey because things change so quickly. So like you said, the first couple of years we were just doing a lot of simple kind of editorial and illustration work, and the next phase was sort of a development of that, and then the next phase was something even bigger, taking on like really sometimes like projects bigger than we could chew, but we took it on, you learn a lesson and you move on to like the next kind of thing and learn the new skill, the next set of skills that you sort of glean from that project.
When you guys started, when you guys started out, was that back in London then?
No, it's Cape Town. Oh,
it's always been Cape Town. Okay.
Yeah. So I was in London for 7 years. So 2014, 2015, I left. Vili ran the Cape Town studio. I was in London. I worked on my own for a bit there, and then the Cape Town studio kind of grew. And then COVID happened and all of that jazz. I moved back to Cape Town, and yeah, here we are today.
Nice. And are you guys all over the place nowadays, or is still mainly of the team is in South Africa?
Yeah, we're pretty much. We have Greg in London. We have some guys in Durban and Johannesburg. So we're kind of like spread out quite a lot. It's quite cool. I mean, it's like one of the advantages from COVID and like working remotely, sort of working with new people and different destinations, which is quite cool.
I guess
even
Sorry,
in and around Cape Town, people have moved out of the city, because not everyone wants to live in the city. They just do because that's where work is. So a lot of people have moved just a little bit out of the city into the suburbs, maybe a little bit further, like small towns around Cape Town. So, it's all around the country now. Really.
That's nice.
I
So you
guess-
guys fully remote nowadays?
Yeah, fully remote. We had a really good setup before COVID. We had a render farm, server, everything was like plugged into the main hub. It was quite cool. And then it really just became redundant because for 2 years, none of that was used,
Yeah.
So it just made sense. We had really built this kind of pipeline, through the cloud and online. Just made sense just to keep doing that because it was working for us for so long. And obviously the costs are less too, which is a bonus for everyone.
Which do you kind of prefer? Do you prefer it when it's more remote dominated like this, or do you kind of prefer it previously when you're all in the studio together, or is it nice to have a bit of a mix?
I'll let Arnie answer that one.
Yeah, I mean, there's any perks of working, in the studio. Like you guys said earlier, like you can bounce ideas off each other. Yeah, so I mean, for me at least, it was something to get used to work from home. But yeah, it's working well.
Do you feel converted?
Look,
Yeah.
it works, but if I had to, a balance would have been nice, being able to have a studio and then, work from home on days that you just feel like it or need to or whatever. But if I had to choose one or the other, I personally would rather work in a studio and not work from home at all than having to work from home like permanently and not have a studio at all.
It is kind of nice having that separation from work as well. You leave work at work, whereas it's quite difficult to do that when you're working remotely because inevitably, your days just kind of slip a little bit longer. But the plus side is at least it's easier to pick your own hours and to fit around yourself, which is nice.
Yeah. I just miss Arnu. I just
We just miss each other. That's the main.
There's always the pub. I mean, you can always meet at a pub.
Yeah, that's true. We don't do that enough.
Yeah, Arnie and Billy were holding down the fort there for a while. I think there was about 3 to 4 people in the studio, just holding down the fort.
A huge studio, quite a big studio.
Yeah.
It was a little,
I think it's really hard. I don't know. We just moved remote. I need the separation from home to work as well. If I'm home, special like London, we have such a small space as well. Everything is more here, so it's quite hard. You really have the space to work. So for me, going to a studio is really fundamental for me. If my mindset, I can't shift. And also like with a daughter as well, like 3 o'clock, she's when she doesn't have after school, she come home and it's just ruined, for like 24 hours. It's quite hard to concentrate, especially if you're pitching something or don't have any creative idea. Just to get your brain on that is really hard for me.
I thought you were teaching her After Effects for that very reason.
She's been doing Photoshop already, she know how to use the brush and a few things,
What's weird, April, is like your commute to the office, which is quite a weird thing, like having a destination to go to. And kind of like, no, I drop the kids at school, so I drive, drop them off, and then come back home and start working. Quite weird, So, I do miss that morning commute of just like clearing your head and like thinking about what you had for the day. You're driving or you're on the train or whatever, and you don't have to always like look at your phone, which is quite cool.
Yeah, it gives you a chance to really think things, and like I don't know about you, but normally if you're doing a pitch or something creative, when you're trying to sleep is when you kind of like digest it a little bit, and then in the morning when you do the commute to work, that's when when things come into like a focus.
Yeah,
which is it's quite a nice thing. But you don't really get that anymore.
No, it's like that kind of like zone out,
Maybe I'll just drive around the block or something.
just drive the kids around, put them to sleep.
So how does it work like dynamically between like as three creative directors? Because obviously what you guys do, there's inevitable crossover. So how does the dynamic work between you all?
I think my role as creative director is kind of multifaceted, as in I do a lot of sort of the production stuff as well with Lisa, our head producer, and budget stuff, and wear a lot of hats. So I have put a lot of trust in Vili and Arnie, and they pretty much run majority of the creative, and I have input here and there, and input like with the client and stuff like that. But the day-to-day stuff, they kind of run their teams, and I'm hanging around, and if I have anything to say, sure, whatever I will. But yeah, and I think as well for me, like that trust is a big thing. Like just trusting, like because we've worked together for so long, I know like they're both going to always nail it.
Mm.
So
it makes a holiday less stressful.
Yeah. Well, you're dealing with budgets with clients and stuff like that. You never really have a holiday either.
That's true.
And in the beginning, you said like how you guys start like more on the illustration side and everything. What made you guys move into animation and motion graphic? Because looking at the showreel nowadays is really like animation driven, character driven as well. It's really strong. And for me, imagine like you said, how you start is such quite a long way. What made you guys change? Was more natural, or was something you guys always love it?
I think it's purely because Vili joined. Like I wasn't an animator. I was just a sort of illustrator. When Vili joined, it just made sense to make that stuff move, and as I said earlier, just kind of like progress from there. And then
because I originally joined as an illustrator. I wanted to be an illustrator, but I just knew I studied animation, but I wanted to be an illustrator. But then, so started just doing illustration, and then started animating those illustrations and stuff. And then that just became more fun. And we started slowly getting, clients here and there from the animation that we were just putting out on like Dribble and Instagram and stuff. And it just snowballed. And after a while, I completely moved out of illustration and just focused on animation. And we got guys like Adnan on board to, run with the illustration side of things and really level that up a bit.
What's the social media side? Was that planned, or was that just a natural thing?
Yeah, it's just like a natural progression, really. I think it's just like we get excited about kind of making new work and animating new characters and that sort of thing. And so that kind of just developed from that. I think like a big thing that we've always done at Made by Radio is proactive work, as we call it, which is sort of pushing whatever style you may have wanted to do, or animation style or 3D or whatever it is, just having the legs to do that and having the time and space to like execute something that's not client work, that's kind of you can flex a bit.
That little room to play in, and just kind of explore and try new things. And
well, kind of one leads the other as well. Like when you do a personal project, it inevitably leads a client to whatever direction that you were going in anyway. It's quite it's nice to get paid for your creativity as well.
Yeah, no one's ever going to, commission you to do something if you don't have proof that you can do it in your portfolio.
Yeah.
So you need to show them, listen, this is what I would actually prefer to do. And then, someone might see it and like it and pay you to do it.
Yeah. I mean, it's happened quite a lot. I mean, that's how we kind of, we're here.
Yeah.
I was going to ask. I forgot what I was going to ask now. Sorry.
I was going to say though, interestingly, you know, like the main kind of work that we put out is animation, but in recent sort of this year and last year, we did a lot of character illustration for print and packaging, which is quite different for us and pretty cool. We did a really nice campaign for Keels for the advent calendar for Christmas, which was quite cool and very different. And we did another Christmas packaging for Reese's Chocolates as well, which has a DJ Santa on it. So, yeah, I mean, you know, like,
yeah, I mean, there was Baby Bell as well, and some stuff for a lot of stills for Spotify. So there is still
the percentage of illustration to animation nowadays. What would you say?
Yeah, probably like 10% illustration, and the rest animation.
There's one kind of like, you know, when you're either pitching for a job or putting together a budget, either illustration or animation, do you kind of like offer, you know, whatever the other side is? Like if you're doing an animation job, it's like, oh yeah, we've got, you know, there's illustrations as part of this, like why don't we do, you know, some packaging design and that kind of side of things?
Yeah, I mean, that's how the Keels project kind of happened. You know, we did the packaging, we developed actually all the characters for them, which was like the main part of the brief. And then, you know, did all the packaging and then animated them at the end, you know, just kind of came about.
Makes so much difference when it's all from the same place. Like, you know, in terms like it just feels way more cohesive, and just, you know, you can feel that they really understand, you know, the product kind of thing, and that because you've done the design work anyway, and now you know you've got an idea, so what will work. Yeah,
and what made it quite cool is we worked directly with Kill, so there was not like an ad agency in between.
So much better.
Yeah, so it was like more of an open thing, like, hey, yeah, we can animate these or we can do that. And we found that like that the creativity in that project was way easier, or the, you know, mapping it out, than some of the agency projects where everybody gets involved.
So with the work you guys do, is it, I mean, do you get much kind of like domestic work? 'Cause obviously all the stuff on your website is all very international, but is there much of a domestic scene in South Africa, and like much of a domestic creative scene as well, I guess?
Yeah, how is the industry over there?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, there's a solid amounts of animation and creative studios in Cape Town. You know, it's like if you had to see like the city center, how small it is, and the amount of creative studios that are kind of jotted in and amongst that, it's pretty impressive. And you know, like there's a lot of filming that's done in Cape Town as well. A lot of movies are shot here, a lot of sets are built. Yeah, so it's a pretty creative place. But domestic work, we do a little bit of it, but the majority of the stuff is from US and Europe. And I think that goes quite across the board for most of the studios in Cape Town. It's all international stuff.
Kind of in a small world way, I went for met up with a friend last week, and one of his friends was there from also from Cape Town, and I think he works for animation company called Triggerfish. I'm like, oh, that's cool, because we're speaking to you guys this week. But one of his struggles which I didn't really think about, was to do with the energy infrastructure in Cape Town and in South Africa in general. So for those that don't know, there's frequent power cuts, and quite a lot of big animation studios, you know, they'll have like massive battery banks to basically get them through the day and all that kind of side of things. I mean, how do you guys as individuals deal with that side? Because it's, I don't know, for me it sounds crazy.
Yeah, well, don't forget that we do live in, you know, Africa, so we, you know, it is what it is, you know.
It's been going for so long, like it's just part of life.
Over a decade or so it's been going on.
Yeah, like on and off here and there. There's been like a year, like I think 2016 or whatever, there was no power cuts, but then it just picks up again, and you just kind of deal with it. And now the fact that we all work remotely, it makes it actually a bit easier, because every person just has to, you know, make sure they keep their computer running with a battery or a UPS or something, instead of having to worry about an entire studio, an entire render farm.
That's true. Yeah,
that was stressful.
That's scary, yeah. Because I grew up in Brazil and I grew up with power cuts. It's quite used to be common. And in Brazil, all the energy lines are above the ground. So every summer we have like summer storms and like trees falls on the cables and cuts the power in a place. But what you're saying is true, you know, like everyone is in a different place as well, so the chance, you know, when everyone concentrate in studio and the studio shut down, energy is a lot massive. We had a case, we work with a lot of people in Brazil, and we had a case like a freelance disappear like for hours and suddenly appear and power cut couldn't even tell us.
I've recharged.
Yeah, no, look, it is a challenge, you know, I think, but it's just something that we have to deal with to live in such a beautiful place.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a challenge, but everyone does really well in the studio. Like I can say that definitely, you know. Yeah.
And so tell me a little bit more, you know, where you guys wanna, you know, what is aiming for the future, you know, because seeing you guys changing, you know, from illustration going to animation, you know, even looking the showreel nowadays, you know, it's such a distinct styles, you know, goes from 2D to cell animation to, you know, stop motion 3D. You know, do you guys have something you aiming, you know, like to work in the future, like TV series or things like that, or are you guys just going with the flow and pushing the quality of the work?
No, we definitely have some stuff in the pipeline that we've been working on, and definitely aimed at you know, creating our own IP, because I think we do so much client work where we pour our hearts and souls into creating these beautiful characters, whether it's like mascots for a brand or it's characters in a video. And then the campaign airs for like a couple of months and that's just sort of done and dusted and you move on to the next one. So I think like specifically a goal this year we had was creating characters and IP that we all loved and sort of continued that thing that I spoke about earlier with the proactive of something that's exciting for everyone to do. So we've got some stuff that we've been working on. We're going to release soon. I think Arnie just had a power cut.
I think so, yeah.
I think we jinxed things, man. I think
that
we
doesn't
jinxed
mean
things.
I'm about to have one.
But yeah, so we're working on that. That was the kind of the goal for the beginning of the year, to create that. It's been quite difficult. I mean, it's been a difficult year, but you know, and juggling client projects and getting that out the door. We've got some stuff, so I think we're going to focus on that. Yeah, and then I think just generally with the client work is just to keep on pushing, trying to get bigger and better projects that aren't always pharma as well.
Yeah. That's nice. And you just talking about a little difficult year, maybe not even related, but it's been a complete difficult year for the whole industry around the globe, you know, UK, Europe, US, Brazil, and no, I'm not really sure about South Africa in general, but you know, like it's been the whole industry has been struggling quite a lot. You know, a lot of people lay off, a lot of studios need to lay off. How is the industry for you guys? You know,
it's been equally difficult this year for us. I think because whatever's happened is whatever's happening is happening. There's obviously fewer jobs, which means when you're pitching on projects, it's like 5-way bids or, you know, maybe even more, not sure. So I think from that aspect, we've had to really work really hard at pitches, harder than we've had to in any other year. And I think like the work that we produce for those pitches is like way higher than work that we did pitches for in previous years. So that's been something. It's been more of a fight to get the work. I think things are like maybe picking up a little bit, it feels like, in comparison to the beginning of the year. We've been chatting about it in studio, just trying to pinpoint why it's slowed down and why things have gone. But I would just presume it's just everything that is going on, like, you know, the war and inflation and all those things.
Yeah, and also all the text, all the layouts in text, Facebook and Apple. A lot of people lost like accounts with Facebook and places like that. It's just quite
Yeah.
hard.
In the UK is also, with crazy high inflation, which only just started to drop a little bit, and that's had a massive effect. Cost of living and everything. It's so many different, such a multifaceted thing coming together to it's starting to look better. I think it's starting to pick up.
Things start looking better. Yeah, touch the wood.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, the thing is, it's what we've been chatting about is like every animation studio freelancers, they're creating such like content, which is everywhere at the moment. So you would think that would be the main push to, that wouldn't be something that would be not happening, but it kind of is, But like I said, things seem to be picking up, which is cool. Do you guys think it has anything to do with like the failure, well, not the failure, but NFTs dropping and AI emerging and all this like?
I think lower end jobs have started to be taken a little bit by AI and illustration for sure, but stuff like editorial is probably going to be hit, I would say.
And also, I don't know, a lot of friends from Asians or has Asians, then I talk about, a lot of Asians is still concerned about AI, because they're really scared to use that and in another 5 years get like prosecuted for copyright, so everyone is still on the edge. I think AI is coming to, take a lot of the boring jobs, then the industry develop like roto and things, green screens and things like that, I can see illustration wise taking part, but, it's still quite early age, like for commercial work, I think creative wise, but commercial work is still like a lot of people scared to use, like people paying. They don't even know what's gonna happen in 3 years. They may have a massive bill, for copywriting, so it's quite.
I don't know how you have a bill for copyright though, because it takes elements as an inspiration rather than taking something directly. So I guess it's kind of it's almost like the modern art conundrum, isn't it? When you make a collage or something, who owns that work?
Yeah. We've actually had a couple of briefs in from where the agency who brief us would sort of create reference images using AI, just to give us a better idea of what they want.
Yeah, we got some of them as well.
Yeah, which is actually super helpful. It makes our job a bit easier. So
I mean, that's where it comes in handy, like taking over the mundane work and all that kind of side of things. But there is in some aspect to it, like sometimes the mundane work is some people's bread and butter. So I think from that aspect, I think it can become quite tricky for some people as well.
But also, like, it opens the door for people who may be super creative but just can't draw, or can't, just don't have, the eye they need or whatever. And then they have this tool where they can also they can write, and then they can write good prompts and actually produce, something that they wouldn't be able to otherwise. So it's not all bad.
Yeah, I think it's open. I think this is the beauty about as well, like what you're saying, because we have this AI perspective panel on the festival from Playground in Motion a few weeks ago in London, and one thing we were discussing, like, imagine kids, kids has the pure imagination, they can imagine so beautiful, but some of them doesn't have the talent to draw or to build that, but they have the talent to tell imagination, so even without drawing in the future, they're going to be able to create any superhero they want. They're going to be able to create any image they want to, just, like you said, just giving directions to them, So
everyone's going to become an art director or a director, aren't they? Because you're just looking at stuff you've prompted and then go, I'll go with that one. So it's going to be interesting.
I always think back to a conversation I had with a friend when I was like at school or something, way back. I was saying to him, I have all these ideas and I just don't have the time to draw them all. Like, I want to draw all these things and create all these things, and I just don't have the time. And he looked at me and he said, I have those ideas too. The difference is I can't draw them.
Yeah.
you can at least. So shut up and go draw. And
with
I
those
always think
ideas,
of that like that will I'll always remember that conversation. It's like shit. Okay, so a guy like that can now he has those ideas and now he can create something out of it. So
Yeah.
with those ideas, naked girls by any chance?
some of them, you know, there were some naked girls in there.
We have a question here from Jack. What would you say is the most important aspect, what you spend the most time on when creating your pitch presentation? What is your main pillar on the pitch?
Yeah, it's quite a difficult one. I mean, it really depends on what the brief is, but I think just being clear and concise in what you're saying. You know, like if you're putting an explanation, don't put too many words in, just be quite clear and concise on what your idea is. Because like, you know, if you're pitching at an agency, it's like a 5-way bid, 3-way bid, they're looking at so many different, you know, decks and presentations that if it's wordy or if you're not quite clear, it's just going to be sort of tossed on the pile. So yeah, and then obviously your work, just be fresh and original. Even if the brief maybe doesn't, you know, put in a safe option, but also put in an option that you like and that you're excited about. You know?
That's always one of the most difficult things I find is, you know, taking references from a client, and you know sometimes they're not the best references or they're not really what you want to do, and taking that and creating something that still answers their brief, still gives them what they want, but is also what you want, you know, what you feel is strong, what you feel is like something that you actually want to do, and would, if you won this project, you would actually enjoy doing the project, instead of just giving them exactly what they want and you don't actually even like it yourself. That's, I find, quite, you know, challenging sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, pitches are hard. I mean, like, think about it. You've got like a 10-20% chance of winning that pitch. It's a difficult game, really. You think about it. There's not really any formula that you can guarantee. Oh, if I do X, Y, Z, we're going to win the pitch. It's sort of.
And also, I think sometimes it's not about who is the best speech. It's about the point of view of the client, what he thinks he likes most, you know, because that doesn't mean what he likes is the best out of the pitches there, you know. It's a lottery. In the end of the day, it's a lottery.
It really is. I mean, we've done pitches where it's been like a 50-page, you know, Google Slides doc. We've spent 3 weeks on it. We've done storyboards, like 3D renders, everything. And then you kind of like, oh, well, they didn't pick me. And then other jobs, we would maybe not even do a treatment. We just send references and the client would be like, oh, we want to work with you. So we just never know.
Yeah, sometimes it's just not. Sometimes it's not about the work either. Sometimes it's just about previous client relationships.
Yeah,
they have to put out a tender.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of that is just fishing for a number. Yeah. Which.
But I mean, you have to, you know, if you work with the client, you have to make sure that you keep that relationship positive. Like you have to be, you know, the studio that has reputation for being good to work with, because that could win you a pitch in the future.
Yeah.
We've been working on one particular project now since January. It's like a 3-minute animation with a character that does some VOs for a pharma client, and like the patients
almost 5 minutes, but okay.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like the first
It's a
two are
massive
just,
difference. Yeah.
It's just all the legal waivers in the beginning. The first 2 minutes.
True.
But like as Vinny was saying, you know, like we've had, you know, it's been a nice project and the client's been really nice, and we've been patient, worked with them through a lot of changes through legal, and now we're doing another project with them. So, you know, that those relationships in the way that you, once you're in the door, you should maintain the client happy.
I said it years ago, but like, you know, pre-COVID, obviously, but you know, you used to win projects on just like going to the pub and having a drink with people, and if they found that if you're nice, because you meet people through people, and you know, and have a good personality, then that's generally how you used to be able to get jobs.
It's one thing we, you know, I always say in the studio as well, you know, because people forget, you know, it's a relationship between two person, you know, it's not a relationship between, you know, like Made by Radio and Coca-Cola is between two person inside, you know, like for someone to give you like $500,000 job, is his ass in the line. If you guys fucked up, he fucked. So it's not like, oh, you know, I'm gonna give that company to know. It's about to know you and know whatever goes wrong, that you're gonna deliver that job. You know, that's I think it's people sometimes forget as well. You know, you can have the amazing idea, they never work with you, they're not sure if you're gonna deliver it, they're not gonna go with you. You know, because
probably saw you drinking a Pepsi and thought, yo, fuck that.
It's different than a 50K job, you know, that the client doesn't give a shit if anything goes wrong, you know. But big jobs is really personal.
100% right. Yeah.
I remember years ago, I did a project for Nike, and then when they came around the studio, we weren't allowed to wear Reebok shoes. Sorry.
But did they say you weren't allowed, or did you internally decide that?
The producer came around and said, guys, if you're wearing Reebok, let's make sure you're not wearing them tomorrow.
It's such a
I don't want to wear them now.
It's fair.
So tell me a little bit, because you guys are remote nowadays. How do you feel, you know, like to keep the studio motivate, you know, like you have the personal projects and everything, but you know, for me, it's such an important thing. Everyone kind of be some place in the studio, you know, so you can bounce ideas, everything. But managing, I've been talking to another friend, a great director, you know, like people start really struggling to get the teams on board sometime, you know, like even like getting call meetings and things like that. People get and talk about just the job, but you don't have that, you know, every day talking about life, how you doing and things like that. And feels like people are struggling to talk about these things nowadays, you know.
I think like even personally motivating, because if you're sort of, like I said earlier, you know, on Zooms all day, you want, you know, talking in studio on Zoom or Slack, and then you're doing it with the client, you get tired, you know, you get tired of being on Zoom, and you get tired of like, okay, I have to, as a leader, I have to motivate everyone else. You got to kind of pick yourself up and make a concerted effort to realize, okay, that everyone's probably feeling the same way as you're feeling too. So, you know, it's been a big change to be remote. I think we're still working our way through as like the best way, the best policies, and how do we motivate each other. We're going to do some get-togethers. We're going to go away for like a weekend as a studio, do something like that. But we always try and sort of meet up, go out to a restaurant or a pub or something like that. That's kind of the only gatherings we kind of have. You know,
I think this kind of links into a question from the YouTube chat, where Ray Mirin asks, you've worked with some massive brands across the world. How do you stay relevant? I think it kind of links in with the relevancy side.
Yeah, I think it just goes back to what we said about the proactive work, you know, just to do stuff that we love to do and create characters and animation that resonates with us, and pouring the love into that. It's worked. Like clients love the proactive work that we do, it gets shared. So we continue to do that. But as we said earlier as well, you know, we're doing the IP work. That's kind of the next step to being relevant. It was like when we came up with this project that we're working on, was obviously like heavily in the NFT days, and there was a part of us which we were thinking about maybe launching it as an NFT project, and had a few conversations around that. But at the end of the day, I think that the main goal for the project is to make it into a show, and that's what it should be, rather than, you know, something different. Because then, are you making a show, or are you making, you know, a web?
I guess it becomes a little bit, you know, what, you know, you need to define what something is, and if you, like the way you were going to go doesn't really define what it is. You know, is it a collectible? Is it something bigger, or what? Yeah,
I'm really glad we didn't go down that route, because I still don't understand the background of how those things work and how everything is proceeding with that. So
it's a bit of a weird one. Like it's interesting how it's changed. Like the whole NFT landscape's changed. Like I feel like the idea of it is actually decent. You know, to own a bit of something's great. But then you get all these, what's it called, like Bored Ape, whatever it was. yacht club or something,
Yeah.
and you get all those really annoying low rent art projects, and it's just not about the art, it's just about making money. Whereas an NFT, you can own a bit of the artwork, and if you're supporting the artist and the studio, that's actually quite a nice thing.
Yeah. I think Marcus Magnuson, he's got the garbage, I think it's called Garbage Friends. That's a really cool
Invisible Friends.
Is it Invisible Friends?
I used to work with him years ago. Like we used to work at Superfad in London together years and years and years ago.
Yeah, we worked on a project with them last year. Short little project with a bunch of different animators and stuff. And
he's a really nice guy, man. Really nice dude.
Yeah, I mean, he was so easy to work with. Like,
he's the most chill guy. If you ever meet him, he's like, yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, and the stuff he sent us was just like spot on first time. Just hit it out of the park. It was kind of amazing.
Definitely one of the.
We've been following him since he was since he just got in the game, like back in 2014.
Yeah. He's definitely one of like the best for me. Like the After Effects animation that he's done is just.
Yeah.
It's just a nice quality. Like the timing is just really good, and just everything just works really well. Yeah,
and the way he basically like vectors keyframes and animates between them. It's like cell animation in After Effects basically. It's kind of amazing.
And his line is like always really great on his characters. Like illustrating and animating at that. There's not many people who can do it as well as he does. So we're big fans. Big fans. Yeah. I think Thiago dropped off.
He must have had a power cut.
London's having its turn.
Yes, right. Actually, one thing we haven't touched on, which we probably should have done a while ago, is like what's the rationale behind the name? Like where did the name come from?
I was waiting for this one.
It sounds like there's a dodgy story behind it.
It's not really, honestly. It just was when we started the studio, we had a bunch of names and none of them were quite sticking. So we thought, let's just go with that. And that's how it came about.
It was the name that everyone didn't hate, basically.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. It was like some talk about
some vote. I don't hate it. Well, I don't hate it. Okay, let's go with that.
Yeah.
There was some rationale behind pirate radio and stuff. But yeah, there's not really much thought behind it, to be honest with you.
I guess sometimes it doesn't really need to be. It just, as long as it sounds nice, and I don't know, I quite like studio names like graphically that look nice. So it's quite rounded and bouncy. When you look at something, it's also quite a nice thing.
Yeah, I've worked with some interesting studios. I worked for a studio called Daddy Buy Me a Pony. Which is
when it becomes a sentence, it's a little bit too much, though.
Yeah. And then I worked for another studio. You guys know I Love Dust, which is also if you take away the brand or what they are, and just the name itself is quite odd. I think you can pretty much call your studio anything.
Yeah, I guess that's the benefit of being in the creative industry. If you call it something really stupid, like, oh wow, that's very creative.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like band names, man. I mean, have you heard a few of them?
I have to admit, I think the worst company name I've heard of, this was like, I don't know, 15 years or so ago, and I can't remember what they were doing. They weren't in, I think they were related to the creative industry rather than in the creative industry, but they were called Cataclysm Purple. I'm like, this kind of sounds super, it's like a business person trying to be creative. That's what that sounds like.
Yeah. Or like a heavy metal band from the 90s, late 2000s.
Maybe Scandinavian.
Yeah,
one that never really made it.
Yeah.
Live, yeah, can imagine it.
And what about you guys? So you guys run Cookie Studio during the day?
So I run, me and James does separate. I run Cookie and James does his own stuff as well. He has his own studio. So it's a little bit separate. We worked together before. We run the business wise is separate from the Evo as well. So I just worked at Cookie. James does his own things as well.
I just do OnlyFans now.
OnlyFans. That's the way, you know. They should do
Wait,
OnlyFans.
this isn't on OnlyFans, is it?
Can't promise.
No.
Handpicked.
We live on your porn now, you know. But
That's my channel to disconnect.
yeah, it is crazy. Yeah, it's crazy to see the change, you know, on the industry.
Yeah.
I think special, like when we talk all these things, we always like OnlyFans and things like that. It's just, I don't know, it's the way to make money nowadays. We had this British model here. She made a billboards, you know, it's British model. She's like an Instagram OnlyFans model. So she made the billboards and pay like to make billboards with her OnlyFans and Instagram account. She was on BBC and all the newspaper because people get really pissed off, you know, like how he getting a billboard for that. And she said, listen, OnlyFans sponsor a football team, you know. With that, no one has a problem, you know, because me, bruh, with my OnlyFans, that made my own money. Everyone had a problem with that. She make like 200 grand a month with OnlyFans, you know. So I think we're in the wrong industry now.
I don't think anyone should subscribe to mine, if I'm honest.
Don't know until you try, man.
Maybe we can create our OnlyFans character, you know.
Yeah, maybe Billy's got to do one where he animates in the nude or something like that.
No, I've quite nice feet. Like I can just do.
Yeah, there you go.
I think we can do feet. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can do feet.
Bonnie, are you and I gonna like collaborate?
We can interlock.
Yeah, interlock your toes together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you know what? Subscribed. I'd pay money to see that.
Well, this conversation has taken an interesting turn.
It always does.
It always does.
It's all about animation. So let me ask, where do you see you guys in the next maybe 5-10 years? You know, like
They just answered that, man. They've just answered that.
Let's get back the conversation back here. Where you guys see, you know, like you guys in the next maybe 5 years? You know, 10 years is sometimes really hard to imagine. But
yeah, I think if anything's like. You know, everyone's had this crazy rise since 2020, the COVID thing, and then everything that's gone with it. You know, so it's hard to say what will happen in 5 years. But I think, again, I keep coming back to this point of just making the work that we enjoy to do. You know, keep doing that kind of stuff. I think we've got like goals and aspirations that we want to hit, but I think the undertone of that is just to create like really, really great work. Really great animation and keep that level of craft and characters and whatever we're animating just at a really, really high level. I think if we keep doing that and keep trying to better ourselves and, you know, not get too comfortable, I think the goals that we have for the future will, you know, eventually sort of come. So unpredictable what the next 5 years will hold, but I think we kind of keep that at our core, you know. We'll try and do whatever we can.
Like earlier, in terms of like, you know, you mentioned NFTs and what have you, but have you guys looked at other kind of like aspects of technology encroaching animation, like you know, virtual reality and all that kind of side of things?
Yeah, we started to look a lot at AR stuff, which is quite exciting, which is a lot more exciting for me than NFTs, if I'm honest.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
It's just more accessible for one.
Yeah, and it's like it's a lot more fun. Yeah. But again, you know, like last year, the year before, we were doing NFTs for brands, and we were doing whatever was trending at that moment, whether it be, you know, whatever it was. Now we're seeing more AR, more VR stuff. So it kind of just keeps going, like the trends, and you know.
Yeah, it's moving. It's always moving quite fast, you know, technology in general. AR is really interesting. I think it is something speaking up quite, especially when we compare with VR, you know. VR is start moving a little bit better now with the new glasses like Apple come.
VR is fun, but the problem VR will always have is you have to put a headset on, and that is automatically inhibitory. I think that's the
Yeah,
problem
but
from
that's
VR.
the future, you know, like maybe in 5-10 years we don't even have the glasses. Our kids is not gonna even use the phone anymore, you know. This is just intermediate object, you know, like kids not gonna like my daughter probably she's 6, she's never gonna see this or like use this as we use, you know. But AI can nowadays with what we have is really powerful.
But I mean, if you think about it, like, so Maybe radio's been going for 12 years. So when we started, the iPhone was like on the iPhone 2, maybe, I think, 12 years ago.
Yeah,
and what you could do with your iPhone was pretty much, I mean, I think Instagram was just like brand new 12 years ago, sort of. So in that period of time, like this, you know, you had to adapt. You had to learn how to animate, you know, you had to learn how to like do all these things just to keep up and be relevant.
Simple things like learning to do an animation that fits a 9:16 portrait.
Yeah,
you know, that's never been like a thing. Why would that ever be a thing? And now it's, you know, it's standard with every project, and it's a completely different way of approaching the project. But you learn how to roll with the punches. You know,
one interesting thing is in the UK, you can, I think, like programming is now a part of the school curriculum. So obviously,
that's great.
You know, it makes sense to teach them young. You know, you basically have a generation of neos.
Yeah, teach them young how to do cut downs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be great? You know, like in Midjourney now, you can kind of like zoom out of your render. Wouldn't that be great, like to use AI in that way? So when you do cut downs and you go to 9:16 or whatever, fill in. Come on, AI, fill in all that stuff.
That's one aspect I never really thought about. You know, in what would happen in, like, say 10 years down the line. Like say 15 years ago, when you're doing a project and you're doing a delivery, you know, it would have been 4:3 or maybe 16:9, like standard definition. But now you've got so many frigging deliverables. You know, we've got to do a square, we've got to do vertical, horizontal. So for fuck's sake, this is the future. It's meant to be simplified.
Yeah,
it's gonna
I'm just
be
holding
always
out for like a triangle screen or something just to really fuck us off.
It's really funny to think about that, because like last week I was in Armenia giving a workshop to kids between 12 and 18 years old. So if you think like we used to do like 4:3 and things like that, you know, like tube TVs and things. It's like title safe, it doesn't even exist.
Not really a thing anymore,
you know, so it's so weird to trying to explain these things to kids that never saw that in their life, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when I started, I was setting up things for print, for like litho printing. So you'd have to do, you know, the CMYK breakdown, all the layer breakdown. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's a few people who do that today still, but it's going to be gone, you know.
Yeah, but like, oh, that's quaint.
It is.
How did you explain what a safe area was? It's like, oh well, that's where the cathode rail tube would go around the screen just in case.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's really it is really weird to, you know, to talk to, you know, even like 2 weeks time I've been talking to my daughter at school. My daughter is 6 years old, so I'm gonna do a little workshop for the kids from year 3, year 4, so they like 8-9 years, and at the school, you know, you can get I said, how many kids, you know, how long I have with the kids? You know, it's 2 classes, 51 kids. I said, listen, I can't handle 51 kids. And I said, you don't even how can I, you know, teach animation and explain to them, you know, do a workshop with the kids in a way, you know, because everything is so digital nowadays and they don't even understand. So bring to that craft we used to do it is such a fun thing, you know, but it's they need to explain to them something they don't really understand anymore.
You can take it away from digital and just do a flip book.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah,
that's what I'm gonna do. But you know, like we even a lot of people like on the studio, they start using more Procreate, you know, things like that. And now Procreate is coming with animation software as well, you know. So like it's such like, is it kids gonna use much paper, you know, like in the future it's gonna be all like on iPads, you know. It's really weird to think how
I remember as a precursor to this, Like back in the day, after I used to do like lots of flip books because I think most animators did. But then, do you remember on the Super Nintendo a game called Mario Paint?
Yeah.
Do you remember that where you could paint stuff? It was good fun, but it had like a little animation package. So I just used to make like basically pixel art just moving, record it on a VHS, stop it, and because you couldn't really save stuff on the cartridge set for like maybe 2 seconds. Then you delete all your stuff, make the next scene, record it, delete it, record it, delete it, record it.
Yeah, there used to be a lot of these like flash animations of stick figures like fighting. There was a lot of that around, and my brother got hold of an animation software called TISFAT, which is an acronym that stands for This is Stick Figure Animation Studio. And I got that from him, and I just started making animations. I must have been like 10 years old, 11 years old or something. And I started, playing around with that, spending, weekends instead of, playing outside. I was making animation, but it was so much fun. And then obviously, after a while, I didn't, touch it anymore, grew out of it. But when I got to university and I studied animation, I had this foundation, like understanding what a keyframe is and what tweening is and that sort of thing. And it actually really made a huge difference. So that's like, had such a big impact on my life.
I kind of missed that.
I have a similar memory. I remember when my dad first got what wasn't even Photoshop, it was like Photoshop Express or something like that, and you could like lasso, like a game changer. You could like move pixels, you could lasso things.
Yeah.
In pace.
I spent a lot of time drawing stuff in paint.
Paint.
Just passing time.
Those are the fun times, man. Like, you're learning it for yourself and having a great time doing it rather than, having to do it for work or whatever. It becomes a little bit different after when you get to university. It's not making stuff for the sake of making stuff anymore. But I kind of miss those innocent times where it's like, you know what, I'll animate that. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
No judgments. So we're getting close to 1 hour. So I want to ask you, like, you guys do such a different style and everything, like I think one of big problems we having lately, after pandemic and everything is with students, like how to bring, interns, students, like a lot of studios, it's not full time. If they not online, they have like 2 days in the studio and 3, so I always want to aim to trying to help, like students to understand a little bit, where we're going with the industry and how to help them. So nowadays, like you guys fully remote. So do you guys get internship, people to do with you, like what you recommend to kids, like want to join the industry, because it's changing so dramatic for what used to be,
We haven't had interns in a while, just for that very reason that we were remote, and it was a bit like weird having an intern like dial in on Zoom and not meeting them. And we do get a lot of requests for internships. So I mean, it's something like we haven't really thought about, to be honest with you, but I think like giving back to that is really important in teaching and sort of sharing knowledge. So I think it's something we're definitely going to look at more in the future, of getting more interns involved. As far as advice,
it's hard today.
Sorry.
So especially being online is like what we say in the beginning, like you as a creative director, like everyone like sharing life and everything, getting the team inspiring, when you have a whole day full of calls and everything, and it put you down as well, but you still need to do that. Plus an intern is so hard for, you find that time, not being able to be in the studio.
Look,
it's kind of weird if you invite them to your house as well.
The thing is like we get a lot of emails and we get a lot of requests for interns, and we get a lot of portfolios and things like that. But it's kind of maybe the advice is to just not give up, but keep emailing and just keep pestering, send the stuff out. Like as you say, we're so busy. Might miss it the one day, but then the next day you might pick it up, be like, wow, that's a great reel. So just keep pestering, and I mean,
And in terms of portfolios, what I'll always tell, students or, people, coming up in the industry is always focus on quality over quantity.
yeah,
Because a lot of, like the school that I studied at focused quite a lot on quality. I guess they just wanted you to, do as much as possible, and that would eventually make you good. But, instead of doing a 5-minute mediocre animation, do a 10-second great animation. Put that in your portfolio. If I see that as a creative director, that'll catch my eye and I'll be like, that kid can animate. That's all I need to see. And if those first 10 seconds of that 5-minute animation is not good, I'm not watching the other 4.5 minutes.
yeah.
So focus on small, really well-crafted, quality over quantity.
Yeah, and don't send like a 35, megabyte PDF in your email either.
Sure, yeah, send me an Instagram
Yeah,
page.
send an Instagram link. Yeah.
That is, if someone sends us a portfolio, the first thing I do is I go find them on Instagram and see like what they're doing day to day to see like what they.
It's the weirdest thing. Someone will like really work on their cover page of their resume. They'll email their cover page of the resume, which is fantastic. But to be honest with you, it's like staring at nothing because there's nothing that's grabbing your attention, and that's what you really want. You want like to see the imagery, whether you study that, wherever, it doesn't really matter as long as you're a nice person and the images really work well and you're good at what you do.
And it's a funny thing about our industry is you don't even have to study anyway. You don't need a degree.
That's true.
Like I got my job at radio before I had my degree, and if I didn't end up getting my degree, I still would have had the job. It's about the portfolio and about showing that you can do this. We don't care if where you studied or if you studied.
And also just like in general, just showing up. We all working remote, so it's not like you have to motivate yourself to do stuff. There's not going to be someone standing next to your desk or someone walking by your desk or anything like that. You have to motivate yourself to be out there. To like if you're in a studio, to putting yourself out there, or if you're a freelancer or you're an intern, just carrying on putting yourself out there until you get noticed. Because I mean, in the essence, that's what we're doing as well. We're just a group of people collectively working together, but we're just coming up with work and putting it out there, and it's the same kind of equation if you think about it.
With the portfolios you guys get sent, sometimes you find it hard to decipher what somebody's actually done on a project. So I know sometimes it seems really ambiguous and they don't really specify what exactly they've done.
Yeah, here and there you do get those, and you're like, I'm not sure what to think about this. This looks amazing, but it's how much of this did you actually do?
Yeah. But it goes back to your point, Video, just like focusing rather on like a really short piece that you did rather than a 2-minute or a minute animation where there's like, all sorts of things happening.
Yeah, and like if you say, for instance, you're a student studying 3D and you did a big student project with the whole group and your job was modeling, right? Don't send me a cut of the final animation and say, I did the modeling for this. Go and take your model and do like a 3D revolve with some nice lighting and show me like a process video of how you modeled it, because that's what you're doing. Like, show me what you did. Don't just show me the final product. And I have to guess. I can't see the fidelity on that model in the final product. Show off your work. Put the effort into make like a proper process video and make a portfolio rather than just cutting things up and throwing it in there.
One thing I really quite like. Sorry.
Always important, to remind, like the personal work is end up being more selling who you are and what you do, what you love, than like pay work. And it's like what you guys saying, sometimes it's really hard because I saw so many times people put like piece of the job they did like such a small part on that scene, and you're trying to hire that person and you don't really get the same delivery. So just be honest. Really be honest.
If you guys found it more difficult now that everything's more remote, to who you hire and who you don't hire kind of thing, or who do you find it more tricky because there's an element of trust that you don't really know about.
I think like when it comes to like big projects, like a few years ago, we worked on a big project for Nick Jr. where it was like full on 3D, and we had groomers to do hair and things like that. That was super tricky to find the right people to do the right jobs in that project. Because it's such a specific pipeline. So, it's modeling. So you got to find a specific person to model a certain way, groom, as I mentioned. And if their portfolio has like a little window into what they've done and then they actually do the job, as we said, it becomes difficult. So yeah, those kind of things tend to be tricky.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Byron.
No, go for it.
No, it's just when you're working in advertising and you get someone who's used to working in film, for instance, they're used to different timelines, they're used to different pipelines. That also creates what they did on a film looks great, but they can't do that in a few weeks for a 15-second animation. But in terms of recently hiring, we haven't with the industry the way it is, we haven't really been looking at hiring in the last few months or the last year or so. But it is definitely, when you do have someone working overseas or in a different province or something, it's quite difficult to keep communication open and really make them part of the culture or whatever. But something we have to learn to do, I guess.
We do our best. It's like a learning curve. This is a new kind of thing, a new way of working. So
everyone's in the same boat in that regard, aren't they? It's a tricky one.
I mean, if you're looking for a job at this time, if you are an intern and you're looking to get work, it's even more scary, because where do you go? It's like where the industry is sort of, so everyone's working remote, and it must be quite.
I can't imagine coming out of in a university now and not walking into a studio where there are a bunch of seniors, people with a lot of experience that you can just be around and learn from. Having to now go from university into working remotely. How do you upskill? How do you feed off of? How do you see how other people do things? You just kind of, it can be done, I guess, but it's a lot more difficult. It's something we're still figuring out.
Yeah, it's true. It's really hard. I think you end up missing quite a lot of that,
Yeah.
It's hard. Cool, guys. We're just a little bit over 1 hour. James, do you want to ask any last question, or should we go straight to our final question?
You can ask that in a minute, but there's one last question on YouTube where Jeff Tussler asks, what has been your favorite project or favorite job so far that you've worked on?
It's funny because I know Jeff, so I know what answer he's wanting. It involves a very large range.
It's a bulldozer, actually.
It's a bulldozer, you're right. How could I forget? I think besides that project, it's really difficult because there's so many different things that you pull from different projects. Maybe like the projects that are out there that look really cool, we had an absolutely horrible time dealing with the client, so we're maybe a little bit tainted towards those projects. But for me, I brought up earlier, the Keels project was a great one for me. It was just so much fun, character development, and it was everywhere around the globe and in stores. So that was a super fun one for me. I walked through Heathrow Airport, past the Keels there, and had Made by Radio on the tote bags and on all the packaging and stuff. So that was pretty cool to see that.
Did you go to the shop and go, "Hey, I made that"?
Yeah. One of our art directors, Greg, I think he did do that. He told the clerk at the store, "We designed this," and she was like, "Sure." I didn't really
Security.
Believe him or yeah.
Cool. That's cool. So I think we're gonna finish with we always end the show with a question. Imagine Made by Radio was on Tinder. And you're trying to get more clients. Imagine Tinder is just like, like to hook up you with clients. What would you be your profile for Tinder? I think we lost Byron.
Yeah.
He wasn't into your question.
No, he want to avoid that question. He left for you too. What would be your profile? What would say in your profile, to attract more clients, more people to work with you?
I guess loves long calls with clients. Looking for an adventure, in
occasional spooning.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's a difficult one. I mean, if you're being serious, I guess it's just like what Byron was saying earlier. It's about, we always try to put the work first, and we really try to take every brief and make it the best that we can make it, and make it something that we enjoy doing. Because at the end of the day, I've wanted to draw pictures for a living my entire life, and now I do. So I love my job, and I love being able to just do that for a living every day. Sometimes I have these moments where I just think, I can't believe I'm doing this for a living. So it's really about that, is that we put the work first, and we're not just doing this, don't just want to get a project out as soon as possible and get paid and go on, take the day. We actually are trying to get the best out, and we're trying to take what you're giving us as a client or an agency or whatever, and really elevate it, and make it fun for us, and make it something that we would like to see, and that's something that we would be captured by. So I guess if I had to sell us to someone, I would say that it's like, we really love what we do, and we want to make something that other people can love as well.
That's nice.
A good blurb would be, enjoys taking briefs, and that's it.
Yeah. Briefs, not boxes.
Amazing, guys. Thanks so much. Thank for your time today.
Thank you very much.
Was a pleasure. Sorry, we had the internet drops in the middle. Byron just came back to say goodbye.
Oh,
I think
everyone hide.
Yeah, it's very, very very suspicious, but very
he left just a question when he said that he watched all the shows, so he left exactly when I started asking the question.
Exactly. You also on that.
Internet just bombed at the right time.
Did you not, Byron? Did you not have something prepared?
No.
That's good.
Well, huge thanks for joining us tonight. It's very appreciated.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks so much, guys, and be nice to see. Looking forward to see the IP guys developing as well. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of nice things coming out soon from you guys. But thanks so much for your time.
Thank you guys. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Keep the channel going. It's really awesome what you guys are doing. So
thanks so much. Thanks so much, and please let us know when you're in London. We have the live show. So before we finish, and I forget, so we have the live show next Tuesday, 3rd of October.
New venue. We have a new venue.
So please, everyone, we'll be posting about this, but we changed from Café 1001. We just literally 2 minutes on the Brick Lane from Café 1001. We 93 feet east now. So it's a new venue. It's quite nice. So we're gonna have the next show next Tuesday. Door open 7 p.m. with Field Animation Studio here in London. They do quite interactive stuff, quite experimental stuff. So it's gonna be quite nice. So
I always want to call them Field.io.
I think it's Field.io. I think it's always Field.io, Field.io. So it's gonna be
quite sure.
It's gonna be quite great. And if you guys, planning to come to London, let us know ahead as well. Because if Align would be nice to get you guys on the live show as well.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure.
And at least for a drink,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
if
we'll
nothing
definitely-
else.
Yeah. So good night, guys. Thanks so
Good night.
much.
Thanks so much.
Thanks again.
Really appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Have a good one.
See
Cheers.
you later.
Bye.
Bye.